Break here. When we come back, our next guest says he's getting tons of requests from clients who want to buy a property specifically to rent out on Airbnb. I can just tell that Mr. Saretsky is going to get a lot of heat on Twitter this afternoon.
Oh, hey, he's telling a real story here.
But very brave of him to come in. Steve Saretsky, a realtor, is going to join us in studio next. Stay there.
You know what, Drex? A few months ago when I was talking to the city's chief housing officer about Airbnb and the problems and concerns, he wasn't really all that concerned about it at the time. He said, yeah, we've had maybe a handful of complaints, but, we're looking at it. But he really, really did not seem to think it was that big of a deal.
It's kind of a different story today, though, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Because, in fact, now the city of Vancouver is actively asking for the public's input onto what to do about short-term rentals like Airbnb. Because a lot of people don't know this, but they're technically illegal.
Yeah.
Anything in Vancouver that is less than 30 days tenancy, they're only allowed in a licensed hotel or a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, and we're kind of working in a dark area, like a gray area here at the moment, where people are just doing it anyway and just ignoring the actual rules. But are they really going to enforce those rules? No, but they kind of want to change them.
Well, they might have to, because the new numbers coming from the city of Vancouver are that in June of 2016, 5,300 Airbnb listings were in Vancouver. 75% of those listings were for the entire home or the entire condo. 85% of those short-term rentals were Airbnb. That's a whole lot of suites being pulled out in a market that has a 0.6% vacancy
And what
rate.
is interesting here, it makes absolute sense if you're a property owner, because you are going to make more off renting your place on Airbnb than me renting your place on a monthly basis. Our next guest says he's getting a whole bunch of requests from his clients who want to buy a property. You ready for this? Specifically to rent through Airbnb. They don't want to buy a property to live in or put their kids in. They want to buy a property so they can rent it out on Airbnb. And he says it's not really that black and white. Steve Saretsky, back to the show. Hey, Steve, how you doing? You're a realtor.
Pretty good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you're getting phone calls from people saying, hey, I want to buy a place just so I can rent it out on Airbnb. Really?
Yeah, no, I've had a couple clients over the last year kind of reach out to me and specifically looking for Airbnb properties.
Now, some people are going to think you're the Antichrist for doing this for them. They are on Twitter. Yeah. Watch it. I've already tweeted it out. Wait for the attacks. So they're coming.
Okay, but hang on. He's only getting a couple a year. And actually, you've crunched the numbers, and you understand why people are doing this.
Yeah, why are they doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like from an investment standpoint, which I mean, in Vancouver is obviously quite a lot of investors. You're looking at, for a one bedroom, you can rent it $250 a night, and a two bedroom, you're looking at over $400 a night. So I mean, if you average that out, even if you're only renting it out for say half the month, 15 days.
Yeah.
One bedroom that you pull in about $37.50 a month, and then a two bedroom was like just over $6,000.
So you've likely covered your mortgage payment and then got some leftover cash, and you don't even have to deal with dirty tenants like me.
Exactly.
And don't you think, though, that there's a bit of a hypocrisy here? And, I'm guilty of this as well, because I've used Airbnb and VRBO in other cities before, and it worked out quite nicely. So here we are going, hey, you know what? I can use it in your city, but I don't want you to use it in my city.
Yeah, I think it is like a little bit hypocritical. I mean, me personally, like I've used it in other areas, like Whistler, Kelowna.
Is there a middle ground that we can find here? Because we've got a lot of people saying, "Hey, we can't have this many. There's not enough rentals." Whereas, like we've just said, we're technically hypocrites because we all use the service. What's the middle ground we should be looking for here?
Yeah, I mean, I think other cities have already implemented it, like Airbnb, which is born in San Fran's already implemented their thing. So I think what they do is a $50 licensing fee every 2 years, and it's a 14% hotel tax is what they charge.
And then, does that go to the municipality?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I think it's the maximum you're allowed to rent it out is 90 days a year.
Okay.
So,
right.
I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of people that are actually using Airbnb aren't necessarily 100% just investors. I think it's a lot of just working class people that are using that as a way to help pay their mortgage.
Yeah, I would imagine if we brought in an idea like that, just say we brought in the exact same idea as San Francisco, will we then see a knock-on effect where if you're only allowed to rent it out on Airbnb for 90 days a year, we're going to have a situation where we're only signing 9-month leases, so these landlords can go, all right, it's coming up towards summer, so your lease is up. Sorry, we're not going to renew your lease.
But know what? Like Steve said, when you crunch the numbers, you can make so much more money renting your entire house or your entire condo out on Airbnb that even if you had to pay $50 every 2 years is like spitting in the wind. Yeah. And maybe the 14% business tax, it would seem to me, I'm not very good at math, but it would seem to me that you'd still be way ahead even if you played by those rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think something to add on to that is certainly like the summer months, just speaking with people, is obviously a lot busier than some of the winter months. So I think it's something to factor in. But I think, yeah, long term, if you can kind of subsidize Airbnb with month-to-month tenants.
One of the things you said in the piece you wrote about Airbnb, and I think this is really smart, is that when a client asks you to find a suitable investment for an Airbnb, one of the keys is you got to find a building that doesn't have a concierge.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the inside secrets.
How many buildings have these, though?
Lot do. The bigger buildings do.
Yeah, there's quite a few buildings with concierges. What you'll notice is that there's a couple buildings, and usually like they'll share the same strata, so there'll be like one concierge for 2 or 3 or 4 buildings. Okay. And so basically you would, of the 4, you'd probably choose the building that doesn't, the 3 of the buildings that don't have the concierge.
But the concierge, he's your person at the front door. If you're walking in going, gee, how does the fob work? What's going on? I mean, they know that you don't live there, and then they can rat you out. Because there are some buildings, our boss here, he said that in the building he was renting from, they actually had posters like that you could get a bounty if you ratted out someone who was, renting out their place.
Oh, really?
You get like a $250 bounty from the property
manager. You rat them out, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And I tell you what, I would do it because in a big building like mine, if you've got most people are probably awesome who are renting an Airbnb suite. But if they turn on the taps or passed out in the bathtub or whatever, and there was a major water flood that went down 10 floors, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. And I don't think you're covered if the person doesn't even live in your suite.
Yeah, that's something to definitely factor in. So the insurance companies definitely wouldn't cover you if they found out that there's any illegal Airbnb person in there. Because right now it's illegal, right? So,
right.
I mean, that tenant isn't covered. So if they run the bathtub and they forget about it, a couple $100,000 worth of damage.
Start a fire.
Yeah,
suddenly your strata is on the hook, and these people have your fob. This is a security thing. It's my building.
So here's my question. How are we going to make this work? Because if the numbers basically tell us it is more beneficial for you not to rent to tenants, it's more beneficial for you to rent illegally to Airbnb. Where do we go from here?
What I think you do? I think you end up having buildings that are specifically and uniquely and exclusively only Airbnb, the entire place, and it's operated like a hotel.
Right.
There are places that exist like that right now.
Yeah, that's
in this city, there are people that own entire buildings?
Not in this city, no, in other jurisdictions around the world, where the whole place... In fact, no, there's one actually in Kitsilano. I just read about it in the paper.
The entire building is Airbnb.
All 8 suites are being up on Airbnb. It used to be an SRO in Kits, of all things, and they just found that was the way to go, and they were being investigated by the city. So it's going on,
and it was meant to be an SRO.
Initially, yeah.
Oh my God! So how many clients have actually helped get into apartments specifically just for their Airbnb business?
Honestly, I've kind of persuaded my clients to do otherwise.
To not do it.
Yeah, I just said, first of all, you have the insurance. You're going to get fined. It's generally a couple $100 each time. And you're gonna get so many fines, and then
so you're not an evil real estate agent then. That's a good thing.
I try not to be.
All right, Steve Saretsky, thanks so much for coming by, man. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
You know what? We have been hearing so many stories about police violence, police shootings, and there was another one just in the last day or so here, Drex.
And a bizarre one as well.
Oh, it'll make you mad.
We'll do it next. Steele and Drex, News Talk 980, CKNW.